Hello, I'm back with another of my musical pet hates videos. Yes, hot on the heels of the success of my last pet hates video, I have had a request from a good friend of mine called Henry, hello Henry, for another pet hates video. So yes, I should take a moment to say how sad I am that in the world of music, hatred seems to travel further than love, but I'm not going to, because it's such good fun. Right, let's get started at number 1, or what is actually number 6. Chances. My 6th biggest musical pet hate is chances. You see, folks, back in the day, and I guess I'm talking about 30 years here, I used to go on family holidays to the south of France. There was a band that used to work in the south of France around the bar and restaurant circuit called Strata. I believe their main man, Willie Austin, is still playing. Now, let me tell you something, guys. You'd go to see Strata and your jaw would often fall to the floor. If it wasn't the light-fingered virtuosity of their lead guitarist, it was the pitch-perfect vocals and larger-than-life stage presence of Willie Austin, their singer. It could have been the presentation, it could have been the high entertainment value, and their overall professionalism. But what I'm getting at is that once upon a time, there was only a fine line between your big-time pros, i.e. your Bon Jovis, your Rolling Stones, your Meatloafs, your Status Quos, and your small-timers, your bands who worked the pub, club, bar and cabaret circuit. Nowadays, of course, sadly, things have come down a long way. There do seem to be an awful lot of bands who play gigs for money when really they should perhaps spend a bit more time in the drawing room. Often you get slightly fluffed endings at the start of songs, or you get bands who look at each other, which one are we doing yet? You get off-key vocals, you get a poor, muddy sound mix, lousy presentation, people don't dress the best. And I really don't think that bands like that should be playing gigs for money because it devalues the local music circuit. I'm going to sit up for a second. I don't know if you can read that. It says Buddy Guy. Look at that. That's Buddy Guy kissing his Fender Stratocaster. It's a cover of his album called Born to Play Guitar. The message is that his desire to play guitar comes right from the heart, and he does it to fulfill an artistic need in himself and not to make a quick buck. Buddy Guy is not a chancer. Sadly, lots of people are these days, and that is my number 6 musical pet hate. 2 or 7, depending how you look at it. Quitters. Let me explain, guys. It is not at all uncommon in today's musical climate for band members to quit their band at short notice. And by short notice, I can mean a day or two before a gig. Usually, they do this because they have got the hump. I've had this happen to me on several occasions where someone who's in the band has a bit of an issue with me and they won't talk about it. What they'll do is they'll just quit the band in disgust, and to get back at me, of course, I will have to find a way to honour an agreement and perhaps have to cancel a gig and therefore spoil my reputation, whereas that person goes scot-free. In fact, in December of 2006, I always remember, it was a Monday morning, the 11th of December, and I had a text message from the then bassist, who I mustn't name for legal reasons, but I'll mouth the words of his name. This bass player's name was... he's a bass player, pretty good one, but he got the hump with me and he sent me a text on the 11th of December to say he wouldn't be doing gigs with me anymore, which is great. But, of course, that was when the Christmas holiday season was approaching and the band had, if I remember rightly, 5 gigs in the diary, including Christmas Eve, Boxing Night and New Year's Eve. The last thing I needed was to be without a full complement of musicians, but because this person had got himself in a mood with me, he was upset, he decided to get his own back, he would quit the band and leave me in a very, very awkward position. Well, I hate to say it, guys, I think there are far more civilised ways to do it than that. So, yeah, if you're going to quit a band, do it, but give them some notice. Or maybe, and here's a novel idea, talk to your fellow musicians and speak your mind in a civilised and friendly fashion and try and work your way forward. Try and find a way out of the problems that you've got, because a band has to stay together to make any progress at all. If a band keeps changing its lineup, it won't get anywhere. But of course, that's what these quitters want, isn't it? Number 3, or 8, depending how you look at it, bad soundmen. Now, what have Muse and AC/DC and the Coral all got in common? Well, two things. They're all great bands, no doubt about that. The other thing they've got in common is that these are all bands I've been to see and I've walked out long before the last song because of the shoddy sound quality. Now, thing is, right, if you're a soundman, really, you are still a musician. You see, I do sometimes suspect that a lot of sound engineers are perhaps upset, they're bitter about the fact that it's not them up on the stage playing guitars, shaking their asses for the masses. Well, why would you be jealous? Because if you're a sound engineer, you are a musician. Your equipment is an instrument. Trust me, that band will sound no good without you. It's an art form. It's a really, really honourable profession you've got there. So take pride in your work. I suppose some blame could go to the band. Sometimes you do hear horror stories of musicians telling the sound guy to make everything loud and everything else. They don't cooperate. And I know some venues do have shoddy acoustics, but I've seen the Eagles at Wembley Arena in 2006. Now, Wembley Arena is famously echoey. It's a notoriously bad venue acoustically, but with a good sound crew, they sounded truly magnificent in that most awful and unsympathetic of venues. So yeah, bad sound I don't approve of, because at the end of the day, they can actually put people off coming to gigs in a roundabout way. So they're actually risking their own livelihood, which is just crazy if you ask me. That's just my opinion. And today's last one is, I'm sure I'm not alone here, it's musicians not playing their hits, right? Or not playing their big hits, not playing the stuff they're famous for. I'm talking about your top flight pros. I mean, I've heard it said that Paul Weller, despite being a great musician, no denying that, is famously reluctant to revisit his back catalogue and play his old hits. He's famously reluctant to play stuff from the days when he was in the Jam. Well, that's what people are there to see. That's what they've paid to see. That's what they want to hear. And if people are paying to hear certain songs, come on, give it to them. In fact, if I knew Paul Weller, I've never met him, I would say, do play the Jam hits. In fact, play them with your old Jam bandmates. Yeah, get the band back together. Give people what they want. I've seen the Eagles, in fact. I mentioned it a moment ago. I saw them in 2006 at Wembley Arena. Now, the first 3 tracks they played were the 3 tracks from their Very Best of album. I actually thought they were going to play the Very Best of the Eagles in its entirety in the order of the CD. And you know what? It would have been absolutely brilliant if they'd done that. Just give the people what they want. Most bands of a certain stature have a greatest hits album that is their best-selling album. Put on a show, right? Just play your greatest hits album from start to finish as they're played on the album. I guarantee you people will come and see you again and again and again, and they will all go away smiling. And in an era when artists make most of their money from touring, I think it makes even more sense to do it that way. Right, I'm going to ease off on the pet hates for a little while now, but I'm going to have some music coming your way soon. I know we're all locked in at the moment. I know it's not a lot of fun, so hopefully you're enjoying the videos. Any requests, just sling them my way, and I will do what I can, because I'm a proper entertainer. Thank you. Bye for now.